Are we really entering the best time of the year, as Jaylen Brown says? The big-time performances we've seen from a few guys suggest we are, and we'll preview OKC on Wednesday right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Be down, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jays, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts when they play on weekends like this Friday and Saturday night. Make sure you are subscribed to get this show dropped directly to your favorite podcasting app, or you can watch the show on YouTube, get into the comment section there, share your thoughts on everything that we've been talking about here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Celtics podcast. I'm John Karalis. I have been covering the Celtics for about 20 years now, doing it as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. And today, later on, we'll get into the OKC Thunder preview and some big-time performances. But we're going to get our big-time buddy, Tom Westerholm, here. What is going on, Tom?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Oh, so fine. We are into what Jaylen Brown calls the best time of the year. This is, we asked him, Gary Washburn asked him if this was a tough time. The theory being 17 games left, the playoffs are around the corner. Who gives a damn about these regular season games? You're the 2 seed. You're like 5 games up on this is. Take care of a little bit of business. You don't even have to finish strong. You just have to take care of win a few games. This is you're basically the top 3 seeds are set. So who cares, right? But Jaylen Brown said no. And if you're on YouTube, here's the full quote. He said, I think this is moving into the best time of year. Festivities are getting ready to begin. If anything, the excitement is starting to build. You see guys are playing well. We are sharpening our tools. You got the next guy up kind of mentality. A couple of games ago, it was D. White and Payton. They both went for 40. Tonight, Sam Hauser goes for 30, gets 9 threes. We're sharpening our tools, and we're getting ready for the most exciting time of the year. So let's just start with this. Tom, is Jaylen Brown right?
I mean, it's a good, like, getting to it, right? Moving into the best time of the year. Absolutely. I think this is a fun time, I think, for a couple of reasons, but I think the biggest one is because when you get to this point in the season, the buildup is really interesting, right? Like, it's like middle of the season, that kind of, when you talk about it in terms of thirds, right? That kind of that, that middle section, it can be kind of tough. It can be like real doldrums, like real, we saw it, right? We saw this team really struggle through it. I think this is fun. I mean, you look at last year, right? Like down the stretch. I mean, how many games did Payton Pritchard play great in, right? Play like, score 20 some odd points, and just like lead the Celtics to wins. Those games, they're pretty fun. They're pretty interesting. You start to really get a sense of like, okay, this is something that could maybe help the Celtics in the playoffs. This is a rotation that could maybe help in the playoffs. This is a 2-man lineup that has really been doing well over the last few weeks. Like, as you start to piece those things together, I think this does become a really informative time of year. I think it can be, the beginning of the year, obviously you got like the new school year, you got your fresh pencils and everything. It's like, ooh, new basketball. This is great. Like I said, that middle of the year can get really boring. And then this one is kind of like a little bit more businesslike. It's like, okay, this is something to keep an eye on. This is something to keep an eye on. These are season-long stats that like have enough of a sample size to actually be worth evaluating at this point. So yeah, I mean, I think if basketball is something that you're interested in, I think this is a really good time of year from just from a data standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, all that stuff.
Yeah, I think the point that Jaylen is probably trying to make is that this is kind of like the preseason. This is a new preseason,
Right.
and there's an excitement building for the beginning of what everybody really wants. And with it's a few weeks left, you know that not everybody's going to play every game, but the games that you play are you're going to treat those games that you play better than you treated the ones in January. You're going to treat them with a little bit more kind of urgency, and the schedule has kind of made that possible, where it's the Lakers and then Utah and then OKC and then Miami, Brooklyn. And then you have a road trip. You've got a home game against Brooklyn. Like you have these games where a couple days off, let's go out there and let's just have a big game at home. You test yourself on the road, even though Utah, Portland, Sacramento, Phoenix, San Antonio, Memphis is not the murderer's row. Right. You're like, hey, there's a 3 games in 4 nights. There's a 5 games in 6 nights. 7 nights that are 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 games in 6 nights is what it is. And that's a test. That's a tough test. And so you're gonna have to play with guys that are not normally your regulars, and there it gives you a little bit of a challenge. It's like, you go to the gym, you mix, you're just throwing in a different routine. You're throwing in a different exercise, and you're like, oh yeah, this is fun. We're like, this is going to help you maybe shock the pecs into like growing a little bit.
Yeah.
So this final 17 games, it's not about like, hey, this is exciting in terms of like, these are exciting games. We know these games are getting us prepared for the playoffs. So I guess what Jaylen is saying is that the premise of Gary's question isn't accurate, that because the playoffs are 17 games away, a month away, that these games are like overlooked. It's because the playoffs are a month away. These are the games you're like, okay, like he said, we're sharpening. We're like, he knows that, okay, whatever happened in January, heading into the All-Star, like all of that stuff, throw it out. This is where we're doing our prep. And so that's what makes it the best time of year, I think.
Yeah. And I think even, to extend the gym analogy too, right? It's like, if you're the Celtics, this season has been a grind at times, right? Like it is hard to care for 82 games about a regular season when you just won a championship and you're really, really trying to win another one. And so it's like, is this like the toughest time of the season? I don't know. Is your third set the toughest set? Not always, right? Sometimes like that second set is the toughest set when you're at the gym. Because it's like, man, I don't feel like, pumping these ones out.
Yeah.
You get to that third set, it's like, all right, one more. I got this one. Let's get through this one, and then I'm good. And like that's kind of where they're at right now. It's like, all right, yeah, here we go. Get through these 15, 20 games, whatever it is, and then things really start to heat up. Then things matter again. And then I've gotten through this. And honestly, for the Celtics, right, they've gotten through this section of the season in a way that is like, yeah, good job. Like, yeah, like you did it. You didn't put together the regular season you did last year. The Cavaliers are putting together the season you did last year, but but you put together a very respectable regular season. Guys seem like they're doing pretty well, except for the guys who have bubonic plague, and everybody's pretty healthy, and everybody looks good, and you're in second by a good margin, great net ratings, all that stuff. You're good. Like, yeah, like it makes sense that this would be a good time of year. There's not a lot of questions about this team other than just like, yeah, how do the playoffs go? Like that's really, there's no like, oh man, I don't know if they can prove X, Y, or Z. It's like, no, they've proved everything. It's just a matter of, will they win the playoffs?
One question to ask is, who's the next career high that's gonna score? Because we've seen 4 of them in 6 games. So who's next? I think the big time performances, might be indicative of what Jaylen Brown is talking about and important heading into the OKC game. We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. I know that Wayfair helps you reflect your style in your home decor. My wife and I here have significant amount of Wayfair products already. And, we're thinking about, let's move this couch here. Let's move that couch there and try something new. And I know that's going to mean some time on Wayfair because their huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece, no matter what the space is, no matter what your budget. From cozy furniture to stylish decor, kitchen essentials, and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all at the prices that fit your budget. So we just did our porch, we enclosed it, and we're looking for something out there, and we're moving some stuff around. So you can find the perfect piece over at Wayfair with so many stylish options and great prices. The site is simple to compare styles, and when you compare the styles, it's very easy to text back and forth. I text back and forth with my wife. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And we come up with a pretty solid plan pretty quick. The order gets there really fast, free delivery, and there's everything. Storage solutions, the patio decor that I'm looking for. It makes it the go-to for all things home. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's show is also brought to you by TurboTax. This message is from Texas. Texas was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Texas is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. I invite you to sign up for the Locked On Celtics newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Click on that Locked On Celtics logo. If you're watching on YouTube, you see what the logo looks like on your screen. Enter your email, and I will send you Monday through Friday an email newsletter with Celtics coverage, NBA coverage from Locked On NBA, fantasy coverage from Locked On Fantasy, links to your favorite Celtics stuff around the web. It's a great way to keep up with the podcast if you've missed an episode. So go check it out, lockedondaily.com, and click on that Locked On Celtics logo to enter your email. Tom, there's a chance if you were to take the floor for the Celtics now, you'd hit a career high, which in reality is scoring any bucket would be a bucket would be your career high. So put me in. I would love to. Listen, man, there's a lot of games here. I am there. You've got an open roster spot. 10-day contract me, 10-day me. Just hit me. I can spot up. They will leave me open because I'm a terrible shooter. So give me the opportunity to go set a career high. I will join. I would become the 5th Celtic in this homestand alone to set a career high.
I think that's what they're aiming for sure.
I think, look, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to pad the stats. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned this in yesterday's podcast, but they've had 8 performances, 30 plus over these 6 games. Tatum's done it 3 times. Jaylen's done it a couple. And you got D. White, Sam Hauser, Payton Pritchard. 3 of those guys scored 40 plus. D. White, Pritchard, Hauser, Baylor Shireman all set career highs. And you had 3 performances in that homestand of 9 3-pointers or more made. You toss in one from earlier this season, Jayson Tatum did. It's like 4 guys have hit 9 3-pointers this season. But to have 3 do it in this homestand is nuts. as we look ahead at, the Celtics heading into the playoffs and all of this stuff, I can't imagine a better time to be getting such a variety of monster performances. And like, it's guys that have had like, the little cold here and there. And then all of a sudden, boom, what they're capable of doing, what so many different guys are capable of doing. If you're an opponent and you look at the Celtics, you're like, oh, man, we got to account for everybody.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I think the start of this, the start of this season, right, kind of mirrored the start of Joe's first season, where everybody was just so hot from three, right? Where it's just like, geez, like these guys can't miss. And like, it's been interesting because obviously there was that cold stretch where Derrick White was cold and, Hauser was hurt for a while and guys just kind of cooled off for a bit and they played 500 ball for a little while there. And I think it's interesting because it's like, we aren't necessarily seeing that return to like everybody is hot all the time. But what we're seeing is that progression, whatever you want to call it, to the mean where, okay, now like a guy or a couple guys are really hot in the same game. And that more than enough, right? The way that Jayson and Jaylen are playing, if they get one guy who's hot, it's curtains. Like opposing teams don't have a lot that they can do about it because like Jaylen and Jayson are already putting so much pressure on that defense and cracking that defense. And even when one of them's out there, if one of them is out there and a guy is shooting really, really well, that works. Last night, right? Like Jaylen had a decent game but like, yeah, if Hauser's hot, those two guys together can for sure beat a lottery team.
Yes.
Can probably beat some decent teams. Like, yeah, like maybe you're not, winning a game against, the Cavaliers and Knicks, whatever, like one of those good teams. But yeah, like middle of the pack to bottom of the pack, two, like one role player playing great and one star, and the Celtics are in great shape. So yeah, I mean, it's been fun to watch. I mean, I think it's funny because it's like, okay, who else could do it? You start to run out of names just because like they're doing it with 3-pointers. So it's like, I don't think Nimi is going to go out there and put up like 35 or something like that. But like, we could definitely see Sam do it again. Like he's streaky and last night probably felt pretty good. So
I can see OKC saying, okay, Al Horford, you try to beat us because we're going to keep Chet Holmgren close to the rim. We're not going to go chase you out to the 3-point line and we'll dare you to hit shots. And I can see him hitting shots and getting hot. Like I can see any one of these guys for the most part. And I don't even know what Nemish Keita's career high is. It's probably not a ton. Who knows? The beauty of this stretch for the Celtics is 2 games where Tatum and Brown were dominant. You had the one game where they combined for 83 and another game where they combined for 71. And like the real barometer is if they combine for 60, then it's basically a wrap, right? Either one of them has scored 40 something, and the other one is supporting with a normal 27 point game. Or you got 230.
Did they score 60 in that last Cavaliers loss?
The Cavaliers loss is where they scored 83.
That's the one where they scored 83 and they still lost.
Yeah. And they had 71 against the Lakers.
Against the Lakers, right?
Yeah. And so you have that capability. So if you're an opponent, you say, okay, got to really focus on them. We cannot leave. We got to, whatever. You just got to double team and deal with it. Okay. Well, then Payton Pritchard has gone off for 40. Sam Hauser's gone off for 33. Derrick White has gone off for 40 plus, 9, 10 3-pointers. Okay. So who are you helping off of? How many guys are you helping off of? And then you still, if they're healthy and you got Jaylen and Jayson out there, you got to help off multiple guys. This is why, combining this with this is the best time of year when everybody is going, when everybody's really playing their best. You look at the Celtics and you're like, oh man, like Al Horford, they targeted him defensively. The Lakers did. And he had one of the best individual defensive games of the season by anybody. Like that's I think he gave up, the number was 0.39 points per possession, which is like impossible.
Yeah.
And he did it against Luka and LeBron for the most part. So, okay, like who do you attack? How do you defend? We had that stretch in the middle of the season where we were like, okay, we just got to hope that these guys get through it and whatever. But this is right back to what I see on the floor is good luck, everybody, because unless the Celtics let off the gas like they did in the fourth quarter against Utah, and honestly, the way Utah was playing, who the hell expected them to hit 11 of 15 shots? Like I'm like, yeah, I probably would have let up a little bit there too. But you look at it and you're like, good luck. Good luck. If everybody's playing like this now and everybody's feeling like this heading into the playoffs, you got no chance.
I mean, this is why, like, the team that is best equipped to beat the Celtics is a team that is built like the Celtics, right? Where there are no like major defensive holes, and there are, you can spread the floor. I mean, I guess the other team that's built to beat the Celtics is a team with Donovan Mitchell, because Donovan Mitchell is just a Celtics killer himself. But like, I think that's why, and I know we're going to get into this here in a minute, but like, I think that's why you look at a team like the Thunder and you're like, okay, this is a team that's built similarly. Like, there's a lot of similarities there. And I think that's why they're so interesting as a potential Celtics opponent, because it's, like that, there's a lot fewer holes on a team like that than on a Lakers or certainly like a Knicks or even the Cavaliers in a lot of ways. So
let's get into it. OKC on Wednesday. That's a big game. We'll talk about it when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Skims. I know Skims has generally been seen as making women's underwear. I know my wife has been a fan of Skims for a while. Lots of Skims packages coming to my house, but all of a sudden one day, Skims packages came out to our house for me, because now they have men's. And I got to tell you, it's just as good. It lives up to all the hype. Guys, we have, some issues. Like, we're guys. We're supposed to be like, oh, you just wear what you wear. No. You got to be comfortable. You got to feel good. It's got to sit where it's supposed to sit. It's got to hold you in. It's got to, how it goes. You don't want to be like just uncomfortable. Skims, I got the 5-inch boxer brief, the stretch boxer brief. These, they offer something for everyone. It's perfect for your active lifestyle. They move with you. They don't lose their shape. They stay in place. I'm telling you, whether you're out running errands, whether you're going to the gym, whether you're out for a run, these do what they're supposed to do. They don't ride up. They don't go to places they're not supposed to. You're not walking through the gym like, oh, hey, look at that. And you're like picking at your shorts. No, Skims stay where they're supposed to stay. They're super comfortable. Lightweight material feels amazing. It almost feels like you're wearing nothing at all. You can shop Skims men. Take my word for it at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. You can also go to their Skims stores. They have the men's section there as well. If you and when you go buy yourself a pair of these Skims underwear, start with one. Just start with one. I'm telling you, I'm not even telling you to go stock up. Start with one and then bookmark the website, because you will go back. When you buy them, select podcast in the survey, because they're going to ask you, select this show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's how they know that we sent you. It's skims.com/LockedOnNBA and at Skims stores. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA and Locked On NBA Game Night. Game Night is 7 nights a week, covering every game in the association. So whenever there's a game, there's a Locked On NBA podcast, and that's every day of the week. Plus, afternoon, Locked On NBA debate show style gets you covered with all the big topics in the league. The Boston Celtics take on the OKC Thunder. And we knew that the Celtics Lakers game was big. We talked about how it was important for everybody.
Mhm.
And then the NBA said, oh, yeah, by the way, almost 5 million people watched that show. The most, one of the most watched basketball game in the past 7 years.
Non-Christmas. Yeah.
Not right. Okay. Which is a lot. And you know what? This game is just as big. The Celtics and the Thunder.
Maybe not for Adam Silver, but from an NBA perspective, from like a pure this season perspective, yes.
Yes. I think it's going to get a lot of eyes. I think it's going to get a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is an ESPN game, so I mean, it's going to get a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
So Jaylen seems like he's going to play. He is listed as probable. Jayson Tatum listed as questionable with a knee thing now, which is interesting. And then after originally listing him as doubtful, Kristaps Porzingis is questionable with the illness, this mysterious viral thing. So,
and just as a piece of housekeeping, Jalen Williams, the J-Dub version is out.
Yeah. So, it's possible that, each side's going to be able to say, well, we were shorthanded and, this doesn't count for anything.
Yeah.
Tom, I think it's
even that's one of the sides is going to be like, no, that didn't count for anything.
Doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? What's super interesting about this matchup, Tom, is that first OKC game, I think you can say included the best half of basketball from the Celtics this season and the worst half of basketball from the Celtics this season, or at least one of the worst halves. So I think the Celtics will be motivated. I think this will be another, if these guys play, if Tatum plays, if Jaylen, if all these guys play, aside from Porzingis can play his normal minutes, but this is another 44-minute game for these guys. This is a 40-plus minute game. This is playoff minutes. This is playoff rotation. Joe Mazzulla can say these all count as one, all he wants. I guarantee you he is going to go in there and he's going to want to win this game more than he's going to want to win the Miami game. Like guys will miss the Miami game because it's the front end of back-to-back. So they're going to play their little game with Miami and Brooklyn, especially that tough back-to-back.
Yeah.
Which again, stupid back-to-back an hour early. Anyway. I think the Celtics are going to go out there and they're going to want to prove something. I think they're going to want to go out and win. I think they're going to want to send the message that, hey, this is great. You're a great story, OKC. We had you. We blew it. Now we're not going to blow it this time.
I mean, I hope so. I think that would be a really interesting way to play this one. I think, the interesting thing to me about that first half, right, that was, like you said, was probably, I agree wholeheartedly that I think that was the best half of the season for the Celtics because like so much of it was just process oriented, right? It was just like, this wasn't guys just coming out ungodly hot from three or anything. I mean, guys were hitting shots for sure, but like the process of how they were creating those shots and getting those shots was so good. And it has to be against the Thunder. The Thunder are really, really good and like really tough defensively. And so your process has to be really, really good. So like, that's why I think you look at that first half and you're like, that's the pinnacle of what we've seen from this Celtics team so far this year. And like, I don't think that you need to necessarily achieve that level, 2 times to beat the Thunder. I think you need to not have a second half like they had. That's more than anything. Like you can't get away with that. So yeah, I think that's the thing that I'm kind of the most interested in is just like, okay, like if the Celtics are going to beat the Thunder, I don't think that they're going to necessarily get back to that pinnacle of like of process and of execution, but like, how high can they get? And then like, how much different from both sides of that equation do they look tomorrow? I think that's something that I'm really interested in seeing.
So obviously the big takeaway from that one game is make sure you're adjusting to their adjustments, right? Because when they adjusted and the Celtics didn't really match it. I see three keys off the top of my head. Number one, mental toughness, because OKC is going to be super handsy, super physical.
Mhm.
And you cannot get caught up in arguing with the refs because you're going to get fouled and it won't get called.
Yeah.
So come to grips with it now, or else, you're going to get psyched out in that game. Number 2.
Right. Don't be Luka, right? Like that.
That's
They're,
right,
they're
exactly.
going to be defending you the way you defend Luka. And like, yeah, just be like, sorry, you got to be better than Luka then. Cause like Luka lost his mind and like you can't do that.
That's right. Don't be Luka. That's a great way to put it. Number 2, Jayson Tatum's passing. His passing is at a different level than it was even in that OKC game. So manipulation, understanding what OKC is doing, read it, react, get the ball to the right places, and make them pay for it. And number 3, Boston's double bigs, especially if Porzingis can play.
Yep.
That double big lineup, they like to get to the rim. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is like number 1 in the league in drives. He gets a ton of fouls. He gets to the line a ton. If they can defend the rim and keep him from getting to the rim, then they have a real good chance of winning this game. And I think in the end, all of this is like different versions of use your size to your advantage. Is like the double big, Jayson Tatum's size, all of that. You use your size to be physical back and play through Boston has a size advantage, and size bothers OKC. Mm-hmm. And so those things, I think, are the keys to winning this game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think especially, I think they're all good points. I think number 1 is the big one, right? Like that was one of the biggest things that threw them off in the last game, was just like, and I think it was something that was like, if you've watched the Celtics a lot, like over like the last 5 years, it was a little concerning to see because it just had such echoes of, what was it, of 2022, right? When they made it to the finals and the Warriors were super handsy and super physical. And it was like, you were like, huh, I've seen this before. It's been a little bit, but I have seen it before. So I think number 1 is the big one. Like you gotta be mentally and physically strong, right? With the ball. Like you gotta be strong, not complaining to the refs, not letting that kind of become a thing. And then also just like, you got to hang on to it, and you're going to have to battle through some stuff. It's going to be a tough, handsy game. And, it's up to them to play through that.
Yep. So we'll see. Should be a good one. I'm excited about this one. And like, if they win, obviously it means everything. If they lose, it doesn't mean a thing. So,
right. Yeah. No, you should have put another graphic over here, like, talking points for both, right?
That's
like
right. That's right.
And here you're talking.
Win. This is great. This is a sign that like you are the team to beat.
Yeah.
If you lose, just the regular season, you didn't have the whole team there, and it's not. There's adjustments to be made in a series and all of that stuff.
All the good stuff.
Tom, I always appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man.
And I appreciate you, the listener, you, the viewer, who is here to enjoy this podcast Monday through Friday. Plus, I got bonus podcasts for you Friday and Saturday. Miami and Brooklyn should be fun. I try to keep those a little quicker on the weekends, just so you have something. So podcasts whenever they play, and then you can watch a show if you'd like on YouTube. Get here into the comment section. The comment section is a fun place to be. Lots of Celtics fans that want to hear your opinion. You want to share your thoughts. And then I would love it if you shared the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.